Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine emerging from the darkest period in human history, having lost everything, and you're faced with this burning question: what comes next?
Right.
For a specific, determined group of Holocaust survivors, the answer wasn't just rebuilding, but revenge. Deep, uncompromising, and on a scale that's, well, almost unimaginable.
What's truly fascinating here is how this isn't merely a collection of individual stories of pain or, isolated acts of retaliation. It wasn't just random anger.
No.
Instead, it was a deeply organized, nationally driven pursuit of what they considered justice, or, as many saw it, vengeance on an unprecedented scale. We're talking about a clandestine group known as the Nokmim, a Hebrew term meaning Avengers.
Yeah, Avengers.
Exactly. And their audacious plans after World War II, as meticulously documented by Dina Porat in her groundbreaking book, Nakam.
Right. Our mission today is to deep dive into this hidden, often uncomfortable, but incredibly important chapter of history. We're going to explore their motivations, their incredible, some might even say unthinkable plans.
Absolutely unthinkable to many.
And the profound moral and ethical dilemmas these actions inevitably sparked. You'll hear about Abba Kovner, a poet turned partisan leader whose vision really ignited this whole movement.
A really compelling figure.
And the young men and women who shared his conviction for a retribution that they believed would echo across history, fundamentally altering the future. So, prepare for a story of extraordinary conviction, unimaginable desperation, and an enduring struggle for meaning in the deepest shadows of genocide. So let's set the scene. The immediate aftermath of World War II in Europe. It was nothing short of ungodly chaos.
Utter chaos. You have borders just shattered, economies totally collapsed. Money often meant nothing.
The black market was rampant. Bartering was key.
Exactly. Bread as currency, things like that.
Right.
And just throngs of humanity, millions of refugees, displaced persons, all trying to find their way home.
Only to discover home wasn't there anymore, or their families weren't.
Precisely. Primo Levi, in his memoir, The Truce, gives such a vivid picture of this desolation. He talks about a train journey that should take an hour, taking 8 months. 8 months of just coal-hungry, wandering across this ravaged continent. A dead horse was like a rare luxury. There was this overwhelming sense of just being abandoned.
Wow, abandoned.
And amidst all that physical desolation, there was this even deeper spiritual and emotional void. Survivors talked about screams still echoing in their ears.
Not just from the camps, you mean?
No, from the silence.
Yeah.
The silence where their families used to be, families gone without even a goodbye, life just utterly uprooted. And this profound, almost incomprehensible feeling of having been to the bottom of hell.
So the idea of just going back to normal.
Impossible. For many, the very idea of picking up as if nothing had happened felt like an insult, a betrayal of those who died.
Yeah, disrespecting their memory.
Exactly. There was this pervasive, desperate sense that there was no reward and punishment in the world anymore, not in any way that made sense. The scale of the crime demanded something equally extraordinary in response.
And this wasn't just quiet despair, was it? It sounds like there was a real call for action, for vengeance.
Oh, absolutely. From the very rubble, this fierce, undeniable call arose. You see it in things like that chilling graffiti found on an Auschwitz torture chamber wall. Jews, take vengeance.
Wow. Just stark like that.
Stark. And for people like Manos Diamond, seeing those words became a guiding principle. He dedicated his future to hunting down the guilty. This raw urge wasn't an aberration. It felt like an almost inevitable consequence of what they'd endured.
So into this landscape steps Abba Kovner. Tell us about him. Poet, partisan.
A fascinating figure. Yes, a poet, but also a seasoned partisan leader. He'd led resistance in the Vilna Ghetto, escaped, fought with Soviet partisans, a survivor with a very strong will.
And he founds the Nokmim in Lublin, early 45.
That's right. And Kovner's central idea, his thesis, was incredibly analytical, almost chillingly rational, despite the raw emotion behind it.
How so?
He argued the Holocaust hadn't just killed individuals, it had tried to wipe out an entire culture, a whole civilization. So to do nothing, to just let the world move on without a forceful response, that would imply Jewish lives, Jewish suffering, their anguish. It just wasn't worth bothering about.
That's a powerful, bleak assessment.
It is, and he took it further. He argued that existing laws, international courts, they were utterly incapable of responding properly to the sheer scale of these crimes.
Because nothing like it had ever happened before.
Exactly. The crimes were unique, profound. So they demanded, in his view, a new law and a new court of judgment. This wasn't just an emotional outburst. It was a considered, though extreme, legal and moral position. That was the foundation.
And the name he chose, Din, it really reflects that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Din, the Hebrew, for justice or judgment. But also that acronym, Dam Yisrael Nokmim.
The blood of Israel remembers.
Powerful, isn't it? And it echoes Dayan, meaning judge. So the name itself carried this weight, remembrance, and active judgment, a signal that harming Jews would now face a different kind of reckoning.
So after laying out this rationale, who actually joined? These 50 young women and men, many just teenagers, right? What kind of people were they?
They were absolutely not random. These were veterans, people from the ghetto undergrounds, from partisan units. They'd already fought, survived, made impossible choices.
So they knew how to operate outside the usual rules.
Precisely. Kovner handpicked them for specific traits. Cunning, quick, resourceful, able to improvise solutions, unwilling to give up. He needed people who could operate in those moral gray areas, who understood deception and danger.
And his criteria went deeper than just skills, didn't they? It was about the why.
Crucially, yes.
Oh.
He stressed this wasn't personal revenge, not just, they killed my family, so I'll kill them. It had to be national vengeance, the vengeance of a people against a people.
Against the German people as a whole.
In their stark view, yes. A vast majority were considered complicit, so the revenge was systemic, collective. Their old political affiliations didn't matter anymore. What mattered was their shared fighting past and this new unified identity as Avengers.
That's a huge commitment. What kind of sacrifice did that involve?
Immense.
Ah.
Almost total. They had to be willing to give up all other priorities. Any hope of a normal life, family, future, gone.
Just live for the mission.
Exactly. Live in suffering and loneliness. Become unidentifiable as Jewish among Germans. No Hebrew, no Yiddish. Multiple false IDs, false histories. A life underground.
Kovner himself called it madness or worse in a normal world.
He did. They'd already faced death repeatedly.
Yeah.
Now they were prepared to do it again, believing they'd already lost everything that mattered. And connecting this to the bigger picture, their motivation wasn't just immediate payback. It was about ensuring the Jewish people would never be harmed again.
A deterrent, almost.
A powerful deterrent, yes. Driven by this profound sense of helplessness that had allowed the Holocaust. Kovner's son Michael later said that for his father, Jewish existence and security were like fire in his bones. It was existential.
Pasha Reichman, another leader, he talked about the true humiliation, didn't he? Not just what the Germans did, but what they forced victims to do.
Yes, forcing them into these dehumanizing acts just to survive. So this is about reclaiming dignity, ensuring history acknowledged the suffering, that Jews wouldn't just slip back into normality as if nothing had happened, asserting agency after utter powerlessness.
And this wasn't just about the past, right? There was a real fear of the future.
A pervasive, visceral fear. Zivia Lebedkin, the Warsaw Ghetto uprising leader, famously said she was certain this was only a pause between one akция and the next.
An akcja being?
An organized roundup for deportation and death. They genuinely believed another attempt at genocide was possible, even likely.
And that wasn't just paranoia, was it, given what was happening in Poland?
Sadly, no. You had these horrific post-war pogroms. Kielce in July 46, 42 Jews murdered by a Polish mob. Krakow, Radom. Survivors sent desperate messages. We are living on top of a volcano. All the world murders us. All the world hates us.
So waiting for official justice or for the world to learn its lesson?
It felt impossible. Naive, even. They felt they had to act decisively themselves.
Okay, so in this desperate situation, 3 main paths emerged from Lublin.
That's right, often operating under Kovner's initial leadership. First, there was Brecha.
Flight or escape, the illegal emigration to Palestine.
Exactly. Hugely important. An urgent obligation to the survivors and the future. The Hativa, the East European Survivors Brigade. This was about unity, a pan-political movement to overcome the old divisions they felt had weakened them during the war, a message of unity for Palestine.
And third, the Nokmim, the Vengeance Group.
The Vengeance Group. And what's absolutely crucial is how intertwined these were.
How so?
Nokmim members often helped Brecha and Hativa logistics, forged papers, using their underground skills. And those larger movements provided essential camouflage for the Nokmim's secret operations. They worked together, one providing cover for the other.
So, by mid-1945, Kovner's in Bucharest, and he lays out these fundamentals.
Yes, 7 clauses defining their core beliefs. Really stark stuff, like A, the danger that the Jewish people will suffer an additional final destruction did not disappear upon the military defeat of Hitlerism.
Wow. No sense of relief there.
None. And B, many nations joined in the murder. and many of them are ready to continue it further. A profoundly pessimistic view of the world.
And from these principles came the two main plans.
Exactly. Both incredibly audacious. Plan A, the most shocking one, the goal, to kill 6 million Germans.
6 million, to match the number of Jews killed.
Precisely. The idea was to poison water systems in major German cities. It had to be public and on a scale, commensurate with the Holocaust, a global warning, a historical lesson.
Plan B?
Plan B was more targeted, focused assassinations. SS veterans or all the detainees at a camp where the Allies were holding war prisoners, specifically those with direct responsibility for atrocities, killing the perpetrators, not the general population.
Which brings up a huge question.
Sure.
How did this square with Jewish tradition? Vengeance is complicated in Judaism, isn't it?
It is. Individual vengeance thou shalt not avenge is forbidden. But the vengeance of a nation against its enemies, especially in wartime or facing existential threats, that's different. It's often called for, even seen as divinely sanctioned.
So Kovner saw this as national, not personal.
Absolutely. He was deeply versed in Jewish sources. He saw this as settling a collective account, restoring a shattered moral order, echoing those biblical commands for national retribution against existential enemies. That distinction was vital to their moral framework, their belief they were enacting a new court of judgment where human laws had failed.
Okay, so mid-1945, the action shifts to Italy, and we encounter the Jewish Brigade. Tell us about them.
Right, the Jewish Brigade, a unique unit within the British Army. Jewish soldiers, many from Palestine, fighting under the Allied banner. They even had a Star of David on their patches, a powerful symbol.
And they were feeling anxious, too, even though the war was won.
Definitely. Their chief rabbi, Dr. Lipschitz, wrote about this bitter droplet of poison sinking in amidst the victory celebrations. Was this, in fact, the last deathly nightmare? Was there not another cup of suffering yet to come? That same fear Kovner had, that the threat wasn't over.
And this fear, plus what they were learning about the Holocaust, led to action.
Spontaneous acts of vengeance, yes. When columns of German SS prisoners marched past, despite British orders to restrain themselves, the Jewish soldiers just flared up spontaneously.
What did they do?
Threw stones, cans, tent pegs, cursed them, spat on them, and they put up these defiant banners on their trucks. Kein Volk, kein Reich, kein Führer, and Yehuda erwacht, Deutschland zerkracht. Judah has awakened, Germany has shattered, a direct reversal of Nazi slogans, pure pent-up rage and grief.
Were these actions approved? Sounds like it would cause friction.
It did, and intense internal debates within the brigade itself. Hanak Bartov, who was there, wrote about this powerful urge for a single wild Jewish revenge, just once, like the groups who had persecuted Jews.
Did you descend to that level?
Exactly. But alongside that was this profound fear of becoming like the Nazis themselves, losing their own humanity, a constant tightrope walk for these soldiers.
Which brings us to this really pivotal meeting in Italy, July 45. The brigade meets Kovner's group.
Deeply emotional, yes. The brigade soldiers expected broken survivors, miserable scraps of humanity. Instead, they found people like us, and maybe even nobler than us, who'd fought under inhuman conditions. An immediate, powerful connection.
In Kovner's speech.
Electrifying. 2 hours, outdoors to hundreds of soldiers, describing the horrors, the need for action. People were trembling, weeping soldiers, Kovner himself. The soldiers saw the Nokmim mission as holy, miraculous, even messianic, like fulfilling prophecy.
And this wasn't just talk, it led to concrete steps.
Absolutely. It was formalized with the 13 commandments distributed to brigade soldiers. These explicitly linked military duty to blood vengeance, vengeance of the collective.
Echoing those ancient calls.
Right. And ending with that powerful declaration. Cursed be he who fails to remember what they did to us. Directly invoking Ezekiel 25.15 about vengeance and hatred, a profound call to remember and act.
So, building on this, a clandestine squad forms within the brigade.
Yes, including figures like Israel Karmi, Sheikh Weinberg. Their task was precise, secret, methodically interrogating prisoners to locate war criminals. This was Plan B, happening under the cover of official duties.
And their methods.
Brutal, highly organized, cold precision, night operations disguised as British MPs using official vehicles. They'd abduct identified war criminals from POW camps or homes.
Think them somewhere remote.
Exactly. Abandoned forts, deep lakes, detail the accusations in German, announce the sentence. The prisoners would break down, beg for mercy, plead for their families.
Which must have sounded
absurdly ironic, as the soldiers recounted, given the pleas of their own Jewish victims. Then, execution, strangulation, or gunfire.
Were there tensions about this within the Haganah structure in the brigade, using partisan-like methods?
There were. Some officers found it regrettably partisan-like, disorderly, risky. But crucially, senior Haganah figures knew. Moshe Shertok, later Israel's foreign minister whose son was in the brigade, was aware of these focused attacks on the guilty, specifically SS officers involved in the slaughter.
And he approved, implicitly.
It seemed so. He received reports of important results. It suggests a quiet, unwritten acceptance of this brutal retribution by the top leadership of the Yishuv.
And they had help identifying targets from the German unit.
Yes, the German unit. Palnek fighters, the Haganah's elite, integrated into the British Army specifically because they knew German language and customs inside out.
Perfect for infiltration.
Exceptionally skilled. They could identify and gain the trust of German and Austrian war criminals, helping the Nokmim pinpoint targets, often extracting crucial information.
Okay, so August 1945, a critical moment. Kovner goes to Palestine. What was his mission there?
It was huge. He wasn't just seeking moral support. He wanted official backing from the top Yishuv leadership. And most importantly, he needed a suitable, potent poison for Plan A.
To legitimize and enable the mass revenge plan.
Precisely. He aimed to return to Europe with an order from the top echelon of the Haganah, the ultimate national stamp of approval, ensuring the Nokmim got assistance with as much freedom and as little supervision as possible.
And he claimed to have met with Weizmann, Chaim Weizmann, president of the World Zionist Organization.
He did claim that, yes. A pivotal, though disputed meeting. Kovner alleged Weizmann referred him to Professor Ernst David Bergman, a top chemist, for help getting the poison. If true, that meeting would have given immense weight to his mission.
Did he get the poison?
He did. Despite the controversy around the details, he acquired it from the Katzir brothers, Aaron and Ephraim, brilliant chemists, later leading Israeli scientists.
How potent was it?
Incredibly potent. They stated 1 milligram was downright fatal. And the quantity? Enough for Plan A twice over. A terrifying step closer to that mass retribution goal.
But how did the Yishuv leadership, people like Ben-Gurion, view this? Did they support Plan A?
That's where it gets complicated. Connecting this to the bigger picture, the Yishuv leadership had very clear overriding priorities.
Which were?
The rehabilitation and illegal immigration, the britcha, of hundreds of thousands of survivors to Palestine, that was seen as absolutely vital for creating the nascent state.
So indiscriminate revenge, like Plan A,
was seen as a dangerous distraction. Morally problematic, yes, but also a potential international liability. It could jeopardize the whole state-building project, turn world opinion against them right when they needed support.
So generally they opposed Plan A?
Generally, yes.
Yeah.
The stipulation was Plan B only. Even figures sympathetic to vengeance, like Palmat commander Shimon Avidan, found indiscriminate revenge unacceptable. Too risky, harming innocents, alienating allies, damaging the Jewish image globally.
But there was still a desire for some kind of vengeance.
Oh, definitely. The emotion was real even at the highest levels. You see it in the coded language they use.
Coded language?
Yeah, they often use the word neshama Hebrew for comfort or consolation as a code for vengeance. Communications from figures like Shad Misho leaders did support maximum effectiveness, maybe 10,000 and up. Killed, but only against those who deserve neshama. Documented war criminals. And under strict conditions. No harm to families, relatives, or allied personnel.
So a deep desire for vengeance, but carefully constrained by politics and morality.
Exactly. A real tension between gut feeling and pragmatic statecraft.
And the poison itself, the Katzir brothers claimed they didn't know about Plan A.
They later stated that vehemently, yes. They believed it was for targeted assassinations, Plan B, providing a precise weapon for specific justice, not mass killing.
What about Weizmann's alleged involvement?
That remains controversial. Ephraim Kitzir later flatly denied it, calling it baseless, in complete opposition to Weizmann's worldview. He said they didn't even know Weizmann personally in '45.
So maybe Kovner exaggerated Weizmann's support, or the official story was managed later.
It's possible. Kovner might have been leveraging names for authority, or perhaps the Yishuv wanted plausible deniability later on. The truth is murky.
So Kovner gets the poison, and in December '45, he leaves Egypt on a ship, the Champollion. What happened then?
He's traveling under a false name, Benjamin Beit Halakmi. The poison is disguised as powdered milk in cans, gold coins for funding hidden in toothpaste tubes. He reportedly never let the sack with the cans out of his sight.
He knew the stakes.
Absolutely. But just before reaching Toulon, France, a loudspeaker calls out his assumed name and those of 3 others traveling with false papers.
They were caught.
Arrested near Toulon, taken to a military facility. Why? Theories vary wildly. Kovner blamed Haganah circles, deliberate sabotage by those opposing Plan A. Avedon hinted at the Jewish agency.
Others suggested it was just bad luck, tighter British security.
That's another possibility. The British were cracking down on illegal immigration methods. Kovner's group was unusually large, maybe less disciplined, making them an obvious target.
Which leads to this incredible twist, the poison. With the police closing in, what happens to it?
Moshe Eisen, the Jewish brigade sergeant major with Kovner's group, was the only other person who knew what was really in those milk cans.
Okay.
Kovner discreetly gave him the bag. Eisen, suspecting they'd be interrogated and searched immediately, acted fast. He went straight to the ship's bathroom window and tossed the contents, can by can, into the sea near the French coast. Plan A's weapon was gone.
Wow. So what does that mean? Sabotage by the Yishuv? Unlucky timing? A twist of fate saving them from an awful moral burden?
We might never know for sure. Conflicting testimonies, political maneuvering, the fog of history. But the outcome was clear. Plan A, the mass poisoning, was now effectively dead in the water. Literally.
So Plan A is gone. But the Nokmims are still in Germany. What was life like for them there, late 45, early 46? Germany itself was devastated, right?
Absolutely ravaged. Cities like Berlin were 75% uninhabitable ruins. Millions homeless, severe food shortages, utter desperation. That was the bleak, dangerous world that Nokmim were operating in.
And they were living underground.
Completely. Small, isolated teams living among the hated Germans. Under false IDs, Polish forced laborers, Volksdeutsche returning home, multiple identities, always moving.
Just surviving hand to mouth.
Pretty much. What little money they had was strictly for operations, not personal comfort. They were constantly immersed in preparing the groundwork, the connections in the workplaces, while awaiting the poison for Plan A, which they didn't yet know was gone. Always fearing discovery, every moment of performance.
The strain must have been immense.
Unbearable. People describe themselves as nomads, constant fear, migraines, dental problems from wartime malnutrition, just grinding deprivation. Lena Satz's diary entries.
Yeah.
They're heartbreaking. Something is pressing on my heart, pressing and stifling. I wish that for once it would just follow through to the end. It captures that suffocating burden.
Yet they kept going. What drove them?
Sheer, unwavering dedication. Hassad Tabzor Chapchik put it starkly. We were fully taken up by the idea of killing 6 million. No one was left from our families. Life promised me nothing. I wasn't a living person. We were all ready to die.
Because they felt they had nothing left to lose.
Exactly. Absolute commitment fueled by profound loss and this sense of cosmic injustice.
And within these secret teams, bonds formed. Friendships.
Deep friendships, yes.
Yeah.
Forged in shared danger. There was also a strict internal code. Pasha, the leader, even sentenced 2 members to death for alleged embezzlement at one point, though it wasn't carried out.
And human emotions still surface, like Lena Satz falling in love.
Amazingly, yes. She wrote about it in her diary, asking, could it really be wrong for me to be happy? Is it against the mission? I have the mission in mind, but also love, also my own life. It's a powerful reminder of their humanity amidst this almost superhuman commitment.
So what happened when the news arrived? Kovner arrested, Plan A definitely canceled by orders from Palestine.
It hit them hard, deep demoralization. For some, despair. They saw it not just as a setback, but a true betrayal by Kovner. They felt deserted, abandoned after months of dangerous prep work for the big operation. All for nothing, it seemed.
That must have put huge pressure on Pasha Reichman, who took over leadership.
Immense pressure. Managing these scattered, demoralized groups, scarce resources, and now these new orders from the Yishuv focus only on Plan B, the targeted assassinations. This shift from the grand vision caused real internal conflict, arguments, disillusionment.
And the impact lasted, didn't it? Ida Friedman's words, years later.
Haunting. Decades later, he cried out, why? Why was the operation stopped? Father and mother will never forgive me for not doing anything. Mama, Papa, I did nothing. It just captures that immense moral burden, the feeling of failure, of unfinished business that haunted many of them.
So with Plan A gone, all focus shifts to Plan B, poisoning SS veterans in POW camps.
Like I say, abandoning the big symbolic act, concentrating on specific perpetrators, a more surgical approach.
Which camps were targeted?
Langwasser camp near Nuremberg and the former Dachau concentration camp now, ironically, holding Polish and German prisoners.
And the planning. Still meticulous.
Incredibly. Infiltrating bakeries, supplying the camps, building relationships with Polish workers, handling food, mapping out logistics, water supplies, every detail crucial.
And the Nuremberg operation went ahead.
It did. The poison arrived from Paris, prepared by Yitzhak Ratner, then carefully diluted in Munich by Dov Schenkel. On the night of April 13-14, 1946, the Nuremberg team poisoned bread meant for 15,000 SS prisoners at Langwasser.
15,000? What was the result?
Not what they hoped. Thousands suffered stomach poisoning, but without any deaths. The mixture was considered botched, maybe diluted wrong, maybe it settled unevenly in the bread.
How did the Nokmim react? Disappointed.
Surprisingly, they were reported to be in good spirits. They saw it as an achievement just because nobody else had done anything like it on that scale. Pasha later claimed 8,000 were poisoned, blaming the lack of deaths on American cover-ups and rapid evacuations to avoid a scandal.
And the Americans never caught them.
Remarkably, no. The U.S. investigation, declassified much later, thoroughly failed to find the poisoners. It just highlights their incredible operational secrecy, even when the outcome wasn't exactly as planned.
What about the Dachau operation? It was planned simultaneously?
Yes, poisoning the water mains there. But it was canceled just a night or two before it was scheduled.
Why?
A crucial tip-off from an American Jewish officer. He warned Pasha that the guards suspected the infiltrators at the Dachau bakery were Jewish, not Polish. Suspicion was too high, risk of exposure too great. They had to call it off. And for people like Idek Friedman, canceling Dachau was another deep regret. He said years later, "We should have tried again and again. Did the guys agree just like that to accept the say of the Yishuv? We could have got that business done even without the Yishuv, and if we got caught, so what?" It really shows that conflict between individual conviction and leadership's caution.
And all this time, the Nuremberg trials are happening nearby. How did the Nokmim view those?
With profound dissatisfaction, almost contempt. The courthouse was on their daily route, a constant reminder of what they saw as inadequate official justice.
What were their main issues with the trials?
Two big things. First, the lack of specific Jewish representation as the main victims. It felt like an erasure. Second, the Holocaust itself wasn't defined as a separate and special criminal act, just lumped in with general war crimes.
They feared the sentences wouldn't fit the crime, that the uniqueness would be lost.
Exactly. They feared justice wouldn't truly be done, that the unprecedented horror would be diluted, forgotten.
And this pushed them further towards their own direct justice.
It certainly seems so. For the Nokmim, the trials, meant to symbolize justice, actually highlighted the world's inadequacy. Eliezer Ladovsky, one leader, felt the court was irrelevant, arguing about precedents from a long-gone era.
He even planned to kill Göring himself.
He became obsessed with it, day and night. He was later arrested trying to cross a border with false papers, likely in pursuit of that goal.
Others tried too.
Yeah, other Nokmim, even the poet Abraham Sitzkever, made frustrated attempts to get into the courtroom to execute Nazi leaders. All failed due to the intense security. For them, Nuremberg wasn't the answer. It reinforced their belief that only they could deliver the justice they felt was required.
So after Nuremberg, Plan A gone, Plan B facing challenges, the remaining Nokmims start heading towards Palestine, mid-1946.
That's right. The journey home begins. From Germany to Italy, then onwards. The home was a complicated concept, obviously.
How did they travel?
On crowded, dangerous ships, rust buckets like the Josiah Wedgwood and the Haganah, facing British patrols trying to stop illegal immigration. Part of that whole chaotic, vital Bricha movement.
What was arrival in Haifa like?
Intensely emotional. An outburst of weeping and the excitement when the lights of Haifa came into view. A real beacon of hope. They were greeted with oranges, juice, cookies, symbols of a new beginning. A stark contrast to the years of deprivation.
Were they detained?
Briefly, at Atlid camp by the British, but released quickly due to overcrowding. Then they began their new lives, ready to contribute to building and defending the future state.
And here's the irony, right? These Avengers, whose extreme plans were resisted by the Yishuv leadership,
They end up becoming nation builders, key figures in the security apparatus.
how did that happen?
The skills they'd hone is Nokmim secrecy, thinking outside the box, operating under pressure, crossing borders, false identities, were exactly what the nascent Israeli intelligence and defense forces needed. They were seen as ideal recruits.
So they fought in the War of Independence.
Many did, with distinction, often in elite units like the Palmach. Their hardened skills from the anti-Nazi underground were directly transferable to Israel's immediate, desperate security needs. They were fighters.
And many went on to have significant careers.
Absolutely. Yosef Harmatz in the Mossad, then leading World ORT, Pinchas Ben-Zur and Shin Bet Mossad on secret missions, Yehuda Maimon, working for Native, helping Soviet Jews immigrate, later a diplomat. Their clandestine skills became vital national assets.
But they kept their Nokmim story secret for decades.
Why? For over 40 years, yes. Kovner called it self-censorship in the national interest. They feared misinterpretation, maybe even glorification, or inspiring copycat terrorism. They worried about being misunderstood by a world, even in Israel, that hadn't shared their specific trauma.
Were they angry about earlier unauthorized accounts?
Yes, very angry. They felt those accounts distorted their sacred mission. It was only when Kovner became terminally ill in the mid-'80s that they collectively decided to tell the full story. They felt the mainstream Israeli public didn't grasp that vehement urge for vengeance and wanted the historical records set straight.
Looking back, especially at Kovner's own words, there are striking contradictions, aren't there?
Profound contradictions. In the 70s, he insisted he did not call for the Germans to be hated, didn't want to harm women and children, emphasizing justice, trying to reconcile, perhaps. About 10 years later, in a very candid conversation, he admitted, "Inside, I had a burning hatred against the Germans. In my thinking, there is no innocent German." And then added, chillingly, "If I had the chance to drop an atom bomb on Germany, I'd drop it."
Wow, a completely different sentiment.
It reveals this deep, unresolved conflict, a raw wound of hatred that never healed, a testament to the enduring psychological scars.
What does that tell us? Hanoch Bartov, Kovner's friend, said there was no squaring that circle, right?
Exactly. No easy solution between human values, restraint, and that fundamental visceral urge to avenge such a terrible wrong. That unresolved tension is part of their legacy.
And even among the surviving Nokmim, perspectives differ.
Greatly. Hasyutav's Warkavchik regrets too little action at the POW camps. Yulik Harmatz is proud, but thinks Ben Gurion was right to stop the bigger plans for pragmatic reasons. Poltek Maimon still regrets Plan A's cancellation, feels the Germans cannot be forgiven, no single conclusion. And then you have the institutional view, like from the history of the Haganah.
What did that say?
Basically, no tears need be shed over Plan A failing, because clandestine vengeance served no moral or historical purpose. For them, the greatest vengeance is the resurgence of the people of Israel. Building the state was the true answer.
And maybe a great miracle perspective, too, that the poison failing to arrive prevented a catastrophe.
Yes, that view exists, that it saved the Nokmim from becoming morally indistinguishable from their perpetrators, preserving the idea that ultimate vengeance belongs to God only. #TagOutandTruff.
What an incredible, really harrowing deep dive. A chapter of history that challenges so many assumptions about justice, survival, national identity. The Nokmim story is complex, painful, deeply human, and just unforgettable.
Indeed. It forces us right up against the boundaries of vengeance, the nature of response to atrocity. And while their grandest, most terrifying plan was thwarted, their very existence, their commitment, the moral struggles they faced, they leave us with these profound, unsettling questions about what it means to rebuild not just a nation, but a soul after loss like that.
So as you reflect on the Nokmim's mission, their sacrifices, the choices made by them, by those who restrain them, maybe consider this. In the face of unimaginable evil, where does the line truly lie between justice and vengeance? Is there ever a right way to heal an unhealable wound? Or a morally acceptable way to exact retribution for a crime so vast it almost defies comprehension?